Good morning. Today is April 10th, and you're listening to the greatest love story taken from Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 3, where God said, I have loved thee with an everlasting love. If you have members within your household, please take a moment and invite them to join with us this morning. And while you're doing that, we'll be sharing a couple of updates. Next Sunday is Easter, and we would like to have a program about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And then on June the 24th, or rather April 24th, we'll have a program about Give Me That Old Time Religion. And so I hope that you'll be inviting others to tune in and join with us. And as we go forward, we're going to be taking a look at things both from the Old and the New Testament, and we're about to start our journey with Jesus Christ as he began his personal ministry, and you'll be able to walk with him, and he'll recognize you and smile and talk to you, and you'll be able to talk to him. He'll know that you belong in this time era, but he'll want you to dig deep in the scriptures that you might share the gospel with those around you. Now, this morning is a program that I've spoken to you about before, and this has to deal with the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And we're going to take a look at it from both a biblical standpoint and then also from a medical perspective. And so I hope that you'll be ready for this because it is something that is very shocking. Some details about the death of Jesus Christ, things also that led up to his death, that is something that we need to know and to understand so that we might fully grasp the gravity of what Jesus went through and to appreciate his sacrifice even that much more and be more dedicated to Jesus Christ and to give him all the love within our heart, our soul, our mind, our strength, and to follow in his footsteps each and every day. Now, there are two scriptures uh, in one of the Gospels I'd like to share with you, and this has to deal with something that to me is very unnerving, and it has to deal with Judas. The scripture indicates that Satan entered into Judas. Now, that to me is a very frightening thought. And so then Judas goes to the chief priest and the captains, and then he conspires with them to betray the Son of the living God, Jesus Christ. And so then he goes back where the apostles are gathered together, and there's Jesus. And then the scripture also indicates again that Satan once again entered into Judas. And so Jesus made the statement that one of you is going to betray me. And the Apostle John, the apostle whom Jesus loved, the one that was the closest to him, had his head resting on the bosom of Jesus. And so he asked Jesus who it was that would betray him. And Jesus said that the person that he gave the sop to would be the one that would betray him. Now, the word sop would be the unleavened bread that Jesus took and he dipped it into a broth. And he said, the person that I hand this to is going to betray me. And then he gave it to Judas. And as they were going around the room saying, Lord, is it I? And then when Judas asked that question, Lord, is it I? Jesus looked at him and he said, Thou hast said. And then he told Judas, The thing which thou doest, do it quickly. And the scripture indicates, and again, this is another verse that is very unnerving to me, is that Judas got up immediately and he went out, and the scripture says, and it was night. Anytime that we're away from the Godhead three and we go out into the darkness of the world and sin overtakes us, we're in danger of losing our soul. And so that is something that is very frightening, is to be in the darkness. So we need to always seek the light and to follow Jesus Christ and to follow in his footsteps. And so then on that night, which was a Thursday night, Jesus instituted the Lord's Supper. And then they sang a hymn, and then they went out and they went to the Garden of Gethsemane. And so he left most of the disciples, the apostles, at a certain place. And then he took Peter, and then it says the two sons of Zebedee with him a little bit further into the Garden of Eden. Not the Garden of Eden, but rather Gethsemane. And so then the sons of Zebedee was James and then also the Apostle John. And so these three were the very closest to Jesus, Peter, James, and John even closer than anyone else. And so then Jesus went even further into the garden. And then as he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, he prayed 3 times the same prayer: Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. And then as he prayed the 3rd time, the scripture indicates from the gospel account of Luke that his sweat was, as it were, great drops of blood falling down to the ground. Now, when we take a step back and we look at it from a medical perspective, what had happened to Jesus was that he was in a lot of mental anguish, and so the vessels in his body broke down, and then as he was sweating, he was also sweating blood. And so that is one of the occurrences that can happen when someone is in a great deal of anguish. And then he made the statement to Peter, James, and John that my soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death. And so he knew what was to come, and he was praying to the Father that if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. And so then when Jesus went back and he saw the Peter, James, and John that they had fallen asleep, he said, rise and let us go. And he knew that it was time for Judas to come back with those that would arrest him. And so Jesus was prepared. He took it head on. And so surely enough, here comes Judas, and there was a, quote, multitude of people. And so then Judas goes up and he kisses Jesus on the cheek. And then Jesus looked at Judas and he said, Judas, betrayest thou the Son of Man with a kiss? And so then the multitude was going to take Jesus away. And then, as you recall, Peter had a sword and he struck off the ear of the servant of the high priest Caiaphas. And so then Jesus healed that servant's ear, and he told Peter that, thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall send forth more than 12 legions of angels? Now, a Roman legion had 6,000 soldiers, and so you're talking about 12 legions, and that would have been more than 72,000 angels that would come to the rescue of Jesus. But Jesus was willing to go to the cross, to give his life and to lay it down. No man took his life against his will. He had the power to lay it down, and he had the power to take it up. And so we should be everlastingly thankful and grateful that Jesus loved us so much that he did lay down his life so that we might have life eternal. And so then Jesus was led away to the high priest Caiaphas. And so then they were having a hard time finding witnesses against Jesus. And so then Caiaphas was putting Jesus on the spot, interrogating him if he was the Son of God. And Jesus made the statement that Caiaphas would see him, the Son of Man, that he would be sitting on the right hand of power and coming in the clouds. And so this upset Caiaphas, and so he rent his clothes, and then he said, what need have we for further witnesses? And he said, what think ye? And they said, he is guilty of death. And so then Peter had followed afar off, and as he was sitting there, people recognized him, that he was one of the followers of Jesus. And so they began inquiring about him being a follower. And so Peter, just as Jesus had indicated that he would deny him 3 times before the rooster would crow. And so then Peter denied him once, he denied him twice, he denied him the third time, and then he heard the rooster crowing. And then the scripture indicates from the gospel account of Luke that Jesus turned and looked at Peter. Peter gets up, he goes out, and he weeps bitterly. And so then he also was very repentant of that which he had done. And as we indicated last Sunday, that Peter was the one that preached the first gospel sermon. And so then we noticed that he had the right attitude in getting his heart right with the living God. We're not perfect. We're going to sin. We're going to fall short of the glory of God, but we need to make it right with him and to ask for forgiveness and to learn and to grow from our experiences in life. And so then early the next morning, Jesus was led to Pilate, and then Pilate had the power to turn him loose, or he had the power to put him to death. And so then Pilate did not find any fault in Jesus, and so he wanted to turn him loose. And even his wife sent word that not to have anything to do with Jesus because she had been having some bad dreams, and that she did not want him to do anything to Jesus, and she wanted Pilate to turn him loose. But then the crowd, they put on such a show of force that they said that if you let him go, you're not a friend of the king. And so then Pilate caved in, and so then he scourged Jesus Christ. He flogged him, and a flogging was where the victim was stripped naked, and then there was a whip that was made out of leather. It had a lot of leather thongs to it, and then about midway was some metal balls, and those things were designed to put a deep bruise on the person. And then also at the very end was bones from a sheep. And so they would give the victim 40 lashes, and then they would actually stop at 39 to make sure they did not go past 40. And so Jesus took 39 stripes to his body from his shoulders down to his upper legs. And then the scripture indicates that as he was whipped, as we take a look at it from a medical perspective, what happened was that the metal balls did put deep bruises on Jesus Christ, but the bones itself were digging into the flesh, and it was taking out large chunks of flesh, and right down to the bone. The bones would actually be showing. And so that was what Jesus went through with the flogging. And so then, after that, the Roman soldiers put forth a crown of thorns on Jesus' head, and they began smiting him and digging the thorns deeper into the head of Jesus Christ. And the thorns were about 1 to 2 inches in length. And so it caused Jesus severe bleeding. And so that is a little bit about what happened to Jesus Christ. But with the flogging and with the crown of thorns, the blood pressure of Jesus began to lower, and very likely he went into a state of shock, such that they had to call on Simon of Cyrene to help carry the cross that Jesus was to be nailed upon and to be crucified. And so then we go to Golgotha, and Jesus had to lay down so that they would nail him to the cross. And as he was nailed to the cross, it indicates that he was nailed in the hands, but bear this in mind, that the wrists were also considered to be part of the hand, and it was more likely that he was nailed into the wrist with the nails so that it would be able to carry the weight of his body. And so as they drove the nails, they were about 7 to 9 inches in length. and also very likely his feet were nailed, and so he was then raised up above the ground, and the cross itself was about 7 to 9 feet in length, such that the feet of the victim did not touch the ground. And so then immediately the sockets of Jesus Christ, his shoulders and his elbows, came out of joint. And we think about the prophecy in Psalm 22 and verse 14, I am poured out like water, and all of my joints are out of socket. And so that is what Jesus went through. And then to try to breathe, he would breathe in deep and then he would exhale. And then to try to take a little bit of the pain away from his arms, he would try to shift the weight to his feet, but his legs were in an angle of about 90 degrees. And so whenever he would try to push up, there would be cramps in his legs. And so then, as he would try to let go of that and let the weight go back to the wrist, then there was that sharp pain throughout his entire body, throughout his arms and everything. And so then it was very difficult for Jesus to breathe. And he was suffocating, but he was able to say several things while he was nailed to the cross. And sometimes we'll go into detail in talking about that. And also, we'll talk about that there were 10 illegalities in the trial of Jesus Christ. But there Jesus was nailed to the cross of Calvary, and there he was suffering, he was bleeding, and then also he had lost a lot of blood, and there was very little blood, oxygen, going in and out of the heart. And so Jesus died either of suffocation or he died of cardiac arrest. And so those are a couple of the things that we wanted to share with you this morning. And Jesus, before his death, made the statement, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And then he also said that it is finished. And then he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. And so Jesus had suffered, bled, and died for you and me, but it started there in the Garden of Gethsemane with the sweating of blood, and then also the scourging by Pilate, and then also the thorns that were placed on his head, and then the crucifixion itself. And so that is what Jesus went through, and I hope that we will think about that each time that we partake of the Lord's Supper, and then think about it throughout each and every day, what Jesus did for us, and so that we can give him the very best from each and every one of us. And so I want to thank you for tuning in this morning. And also I want to thank Randall and Deborah for doing such a great job. And I want to encourage you, as I do each Sunday, to continue listening to them, not only on Sundays, but throughout the week. And I know that you'll be blessed. And so next Sunday is Easter. And again, we're going to be talking about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And it's a lesson I hope that you'll be ready for and that you'll be inviting others to tune in. And so till next Sunday, take care and God bless.